7 a.m. September 11, 1973. Something strange is happening in the South American country of Chile. The democratically elected president Salvador Allende has just been informed that there was a plot to kill him and overthrow Chile. Allende and his bodyguards rushed to the presidential palace, never dreaming that in just a few hours, most of them would be dead. 8 a.m. TV and radio channels across the country are taken down. People start panicking. 8:30 a.m. The military storms the presidential palace, but they're not there to save the president or bring peace. They're storming the palace to bring Allende to his knees. A bloody battle follows. Most of Salvador Allende's bodyguards are killed. The army demands Allende step down, but he refuses. Their reply? More shooting. Suddenly, explosions shake the building. Bomber planes streak past the presidential palace as it goes up in flames. Salvador Allende must have realized the end was near. His bodyguards are dead. The enemy has him surrounded. It was only a matter of time before they find and capture him, or worse. So Salvador takes his own life. At 2:30 p.m. on September 11, 1973, Chile's history is forever changed. A new president takes Allende's place, and darkness descends over Chile. The 1973 Chilean coup was one of the most unexpected events in Latin American history, but the story behind it is even more shocking. It was the only confirmed time in history where a US president explicitly ordered the overthrow of a democratically elected government. America was supposed to uphold democracy. It was supposed to protect democratic governments. But here it was, directly responsible for the death of a democratic president. The Chilean coup of 1973 is a lesson about the CIA, powerful American conglomerates that rival the power of nation-states, and why you don't get in their way. My name is Jake Tran. I make documentaries on money, power, war, and crime with my team, and this is how the US stole Chile. No matter what your views are on communism, you have to admit they have pretty great branding. Aesthetically pleasing art that is visceral, memorable, it shot fear into its enemies and camaraderie into its supporters. That is the power of branding. And the easiest way to design a great brand? Canva Pro, today's video sponsor. Canva Pro is the easiest way to create Instagram stories, Instagram posts, logos, YouTube thumbnails, YouTube channel art, presentations, even full-blown videos. It's honestly pretty insane how much you can do. There's a reason why Canva has over 60 million monthly users. It's got thousands of easy-to-use customizable templates made by professional designers, stuff that actually looks shockingly good. It's super intuitive to use, you can work on mobile or desktop. Canva basically makes it impossible for you to design something ugly. And Canva even has a completely free version as well. But you really want to get Canva Pro, or else you're going to miss out on a ton of great tools that are going to save you hours of tedious work. There's the Brand Kit tool, where you can preset your brand's fonts, colors, and logo, so you always have a unified look across all your designs. There's the Magic Resizer, which allows you to resize designs for all other platforms in a few clicks. They also have their instant one-click background remover. Removing a background is usually a frustrating process that you have to manually do in a more advanced editing tool, but with this, it's just one click. But my favorite feature of Canva Pro by far is their content planner, which allows you to schedule your Canva creations to go live on almost all major social media platforms. Social media schedulers usually cost around the same amount as Canva Pro anyways, so this feature alone pays for itself. One thing I love using Canva for is doing simple edits on my phone for Instagram pictures, like when I need to censor out sensitive stuff before posting a photo. If you want to start making more professional content in less time, you can get a free 45-day extended trial by going to canva.me/JakeTran. After that, you can unlock everything Canva Pro has to offer for up to 5 people for just $12.95 per month. That's canva.me/JakeTran for a 45-day free trial. Now back to the documentary.
Let's say you lived in a poor country in South America in the 60s and 70s. Most of the big businesses in your country are run by foreigners. The locals were treated only slightly better than slaves. If you were in this environment, wouldn't you want to see change? Wouldn't you want to see all those big businesses return to the people? Well, that's exactly what communism promised. You see all the oil companies, mining companies, and businesses owned by America, the ones that exploit our natural resources, take away our wealth, and leave us with scraps? We'll give them back to the people. That was the rhetoric behind Latin America communism, and it spread like a wildfire. And this South American communist movement all started with Fidel Castro in Cuba. And that's who America pointed the finger at. For decades, every government overthrown, every coup supported, every politician assassinated in Latin America was somehow Castro's fault. And Chile was no different. Around the same time, the Soviet Union was desperately looking for an ally near America, somewhere they could store their missiles and station their troops in case nuclear war broke out. So, when Salvador Allende, a socialist and Marxist, decided to run for president in the 60s, something had to be done. If Chile turned communist, the Soviet Union could close in on America even more. To add to that threat, Allende was promising big things, like nationalizing Chile's very profitable copper mining industry. Basically, nationalizing an industry means taking it out of private control and placing it under the government or local control. And who owned Chile's copper industry? It wasn't Chilean companies, but American conglomerates, of course. It's hard to put into words how big and powerful these American copper conglomerates were. One of them was Anaconda Copper, and for much of the 20th century, they were one of the biggest mining companies in the world. The other was Kennecott Utah Copper, who controlled the El Teniente mine in Chile, the world's largest underground copper mine. These mines were massive operations, and since they were located in the middle of nowhere, these American companies built literal self-sustaining cities around the mines to house their workers. They had their own water and electrical plants, their own schools, stores, railways, and even their own police forces in some cases. These city-states weren't run by the Chilean government, but by American corporations. That's how profitable the business was, where it made sense for you to build your own cities. And this profitable business was under threat of being taken away from them by this new communist presidential candidate. Salvador Allende was not only in the crosshairs of the US government, but also these corporations that rivaled the power of nation states, and they were not gonna let Allende win. So when Allende ran for president in 1964, the CIA secretly spent $3 million on making sure his opponent won. Instead of Allende winning, Eduardo Frei won the election. So if you've ever wondered how much it costs to buy a government, $28 million is the answer in today's money. Frei was friendly towards America and allowed Chilean soldiers to be trained at US bases. The US even gave Chile $163 million in military aid while Frei was president. For a while, America thought they had avoided the worst, but they had only underestimated Allende's resolve to win. Because, just 5 years later, Salvador Allende announced his plans to run for president again, and the fight was on. Allende's second run at becoming president started out a lot like the first. Richard Nixon was president of America, with Henry Kissinger as his Secretary of State. Together, they made the most anti-communist duo in US presidential history, and they were not about to let a Marxist get the better of them. So, they went back to their old tricks. The US government, along with the American businesses in Chile, started funneling money to Allende's opposition, hoping the other candidates' campaigns would leave Allende in the dust. Allende was also now promising to nationalize the telecoms industry. So, ITT, an international telecoms company in Chile, was at the front of the push to keep Allende out of power. The only problem was, Allende knew the game the Americans were playing now. And no matter how much money America poured into the other side's pockets, Allende was just going to keep getting more and more popular. Chile's election day arrives. The results? Radomiro Tomic, opponent number 1, comes in with 28.1% of the vote. Jorge Alessandri, opponent 2, got 35.3%. And Salvador Allende? He beat Jorge by just 1.6%. for a total of 36.6% of the vote. According to Chile's law, if none of the candidates got the majority of votes, meaning 50.1%, Congress has to pick a winner. Traditionally, Congress would choose the guy with the most votes out of all the candidates, but not if America had something to do about it.
But this is an important document. This is the only extant document, the only declassified document we have of the President of the United States of America ordering the overthrow of a democratically elected government. This document is dated September 15th, 1970. Allende is not due to be inaugurated for another 6 weeks until November 3rd, 1970. He has not yet assumed the presidency. He has yet to implement, as President of Chile, a single policy detrimental to U.S. interests. And yet, Nixon had decided, as CIA Director Helms told his staff the next day, that Allende was, and I quote, unacceptable to the United States, and had ordered the CIA to foment this coup.
Within days of the election, Nixon deploys a team on the Chilean Congress, trying to pressure them into choosing anyone else. At the same time, the CIA starts putting out feelers. Officers get in touch with their sources and start asking vague questions like, if there was a coup, would the military support it? Nothing is really in the works yet, they're just trying to get the lay of the land. Unfortunately, they didn't get the answer they're looking for. The head of the army, Rene Schneider, sent a message back. He doesn't care who's in charge. His job is to protect Chile, not get involved in politics. Translation, the army will defend whichever president Congress chooses. Obviously, this Rene guy has got to go. So they came up with a plan to kidnap the head of the army, force him to step down, and replace him with a pro-US general. Luckily for the CIA, the kidnap plan went sideways and the head of the army ended up dead anyways. Back in the Chilean Congress, America hadn't been able to change Chile's Congress's mind on who to choose. So, on November 3rd, 1970, Salvador Allende was sworn in as the president of Chile, making him the first Marxist to be elected president in a liberal democracy in Latin America. This also meant that his fate was sealed. The CIA had already received their orders, no expense spared, no risk too great. $10 million at their disposal just to overthrow Salvador Allende. Salvador Allende wasted no time becoming America's biggest headache. Under Allende, all of the US's biggest fears became reality. Allende nationalized the copper mining industry, he nationalized the telecoms industry, and all the land owned by Americans suddenly got taken back to be redistributed among the poor. The foreign conglomerates just lost billions in the blink of an eye. It was a communist nightmare, and the CIA was desperately looking for a way to get Allende out. Unfortunately for Allende, all these economic changes were putting a lot of pressure on a country that wasn't exactly rich to begin with, and that's where America saw their chance. Go after Chile's weaknesses, make life miserable for the Chilean people, make sure the finger is pointed at this new communist leader, and they'll overthrow the government for you. Make Chile's economy scream. Those were the orders given by Henry Kissinger to the CIA. In order for a coup to happen, while it not looking like the coup was orchestrated by America, we would need the people of Chile to suffer so much that they would be the ones who overthrew Allende. Then America could sit back and say, we had nothing to do with this. So America withdrew all its aid to Chile. It blocked most forms of trade. Every time Chile applied for a loan from banking institutions like the International Monetary Fund and World Bank, both of which America had the most votes in, America would vote against them and they would be denied. In the first 2 years of Allende's rule, inflation skyrocketed. Life became unaffordable, no matter how hard Allende tried to subsidize stuff and live by his socialist ideals. With people angry over the economy and desperate for some sort of outside help, it was the perfect time for the CIA to implement phase 2 of their plan, encouraging chaos. You have asked us to provoke chaos in Chile. We provide you with a formula for chaos which is unlikely to be bloodless. That's what a CIA agent in Chile wrote to headquarters. So, CIA agents got to work making chaos a reality. They infiltrated unions, they organized strikes, they paid for anti-Allende propaganda to be spread all over the country. Chile descended into darkness, while Allende desperately tried to keep control of a country at war with itself. The people didn't have enough food to eat, they didn't have enough money for electricity and gas. Chile had become ripe for a coup. Now, all the CIA needed was someone to lead it. June 1973, a small group of right-wing Chilean activists attempted a coup. Ultimately, they failed, but it's enough for Allende to get nervous. So he turns to the army for protection. He hopes that by keeping the army on his side, he can keep peace in Chile. The only problem is, the army Allende hopes will keep him safe would be the first to betray him. August 1973. President Allende appoints Augusto Pinochet as head of the army. He trusts Pinochet with his life, but that's where he makes his mistake. Because, as it turns out, Pinochet isn't as interested in keeping Allende safe as he is in taking power for himself. The one man Allende trusts turns out to be the one planning his demise. With the army on his side, General Pinochet chooses September 11, 1973 as the downfall of Chile. September 11th, 1973. The army surrounds the presidential palace where Salvador Allende is hiding. On Pinochet's orders, bomber planes attack the building, sending explosions ringing through the city. Allende must have known it was the end. That's when Allende pulls out an AK-47 gifted to him from his friend Fidel Castro and shoots himself.
Si la moneda se está incendiando entera, entonces ahí Allende dice, bueno, nos entregamos, hagan una fila india y van bajando de a uno. Y nos repite, nada en los bolsillos. Yo salgo al final, que la payita salga primero. ¿No? Y efectivamente se formó una fila india y los militares ya estaban ya en la escala. Bueno, estaba sentado en un sillón con la espalda hacia Morandé, con vestido, andaba con una chaqueta gris, con un suéter, estaba sin lente, tenía la metralleta entre las piernas y tenía la cabeza partida, el cráneo partido y estallado.
The CIA will never admit their involvement, but the trail is clear. Without them causing chaos in Chile, without their support for Pinochet, the coup would never have happened. America had been directly responsible for the overthrow of a democratic government. In the end, they had gotten what they wanted.
Las Fuerzas Armadas y de Orden han actuado en el día de hoy solo bajo la inspiración patriótica de sacar al país del caos que en forma aguda lo estaba precipitando el gobierno marxista de Salvador Allende. La Junta mantendrá el poder judicial y la asesoría de la Contraloría. Las cámaras quedarán en receso hasta nueva orden. Eso es todo.
But they hadn't once stopped to think what would happen afterwards.
In the days following the coup, soldiers rounded up thousands of Chileans, workers, students, politicians, and artists were arrested and imprisoned. The folk singer Victor Jara was captured and tortured. His hands were broken. Later, he was killed. Many were taken to the National Soccer Stadium and held prisoner there.
Little did they know what General Pinochet had in store for Chile. After Allende's death, the Chilean government dissolved and the military takes control of the country. Unlike with Allende, the US almost immediately recognizes this new government and offers support. General Pinochet becomes Chile's new president. His first orders: hunt down anyone who supported Allende and get rid of them. In the first 3 weeks after the coup, more than 1,000 civilians were executed and nearly 14,000 rounded up and tortured. Instead of re-establishing a stable government in Chile, General Pinochet becomes a dictator and controls Chile for the next 17 years. During his first 3 years in power, the government arrests and likely tortures over 130,000 people, and a hit squad known as the Caravan of Death executes at least 72 political prisoners. Pinochet is everything America should be fighting against: a human rights abuser, an autocrat, and a dictator. But when asked about the coup in Chile, Henry Kissinger still insists that even though Pinochet is doing some questionable stuff, at least he wasn't a communist. The message was clear: as long as you don't get in the way of American interests, anything goes.
This was a super dramatic and interesting story that our team got to cover, so let me know what you guys thought about it in the comments below. And if you're new here, we run one of the biggest channels for documentaries on money, power, and crime. So if you enjoyed this video, we make multiple videos just like this one every single week for free, so click that subscribe button below. And if you want longer documentaries that are too controversial to be posted publicly, click that join button below. There's also a refund policy, so if you join and you don't think it's worth it, I will refund you the money. Just email me about it. That is gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching. Stay dangerous out there, and I will see you guys in the next one.